So now what I'm going to do, the next step with this is I'm going to just find center, and there's different ways to do this. Sometimes the carpenter way, sighting it in. I've done this so many times I can pretty much sight it and tell you where center is going to be because I've gone down the back of a bow so many times. But for the sake of finding center, I'm just going to put a string line down the middle of it and just see where my mass is. I'm going to prioritize where the main mass, where the handle would be. So I have a proper handle grip in that area, which it looks here like this. It technically would be enough, but I want to make sure I can probably scoot this over a little bit more on the other end. So I'm going to get down here, go a little further on this side. This stave is running, it's a little bit long. It's about 73 or so inches long, and that's how I like them for long knocks. So here we are. That's a good center right there. We can work with that. And I will just kind of even though I haven't debarked it yet, I have a good idea now. I can kind of sketch down it. I can put my marks on the end and be pretty confident in its location. And this stave is actually, compared to a lot of staves I work with, this is pretty easy peasy as far as its proportions, because it's almost self-spoken for. The rest is technique now and making sure you don't screw something else up as far as how much you remove. So now I'm going to just get a general handle location. The reason I do that is to keep track of mass and material removal. It's sort of like mapping. So to make sure that I'm accurate on the length of the bow. So it's technically 73 inches long, so I'm going to go about 36.5 inches. Get on my center here. A little bit less than that, but I'll double check it and split the difference if it's not exactly how I want. So I usually go, what I do is I stay in roughly a 4-inch or so range for handle width. When I say handle, I'm talking about handle location, because this bow will not have a handle. This will be a blended handle location. As the bows of the 1190s, 1200s, 1500s did not have an actual pronounced handle. The closest they got with that was a leather wrap of some sort. So now, I got this located on here, got center located. Those are general locations. So now, the journey of stave 633 begins debarking. And I can get away with this right now because this is, number one, it's a smaller stave, it's not really big. What I would normally do, the reason I have so many staves is not only the fact that I'm greedy for you and I like you and I'm making a lot of U bows, but is I rotate these. They have a cycle. I have them dated when they came in. I keep moisture check on them. I leave the bark on them. Let them acclimate to my area, etc. And sometimes some of these staves are so big I wind up making 2 bows out of 1. I have videos on that. But anyhow, back to what I was saying is this stave is in a status where I can get away with now removing the bark and just moving on with making the bow. My block's down here. Stabilizers in here. I always repeat with people as far as working with you, or actually me, any bow would, but you in particular has a very thin sap line, so you have to be very, very aware of how deep you go with it. It has lots of corrugations to follow, so it takes a lot of patient technique. And sometimes I'll just leave a fair amount of the membrane on there and just sand it out gently. Sand it out. And I try to keep track of how deep I go. I will keep track of what I go through, how deep I go. So I've had to chase rings before, but to be honest, I like to avoid it as much as possible. It's a pain in the neck, so I really try to be careful on the depth to get into here. And I find priority places, like for example, if there's a scoop in there, a elk chew or a big ding or something like that just happened from well, just it's a piece of wood, it's a tree coming out of the forest. Anything's going to happen to it. It's going to have dings and scrapes in the surface of it from time to time from the action of logging or something. Find those deepest points and prioritize how deep you go with your surfacing on that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on with this part of it. But something I want you to see. Nathan, come around here with that camera. Why we have to be very careful with how deep we go. Look at that sap line. About 1/4 of an inch, some places even skinnier. Even though it may get thicker, I can see it's heavier off in this area where it gets where the bowl kind of rolls a little bit. But anyhow, we have to be very, very careful. But in a way, I like this thinner sap line. It's pretty, for generally speaking, and it's kind of, it's difficult for a really light bow to be made at times. Comparatively speaking, you can still do it. But if your sap wood is too thick, it's very hard to get a balance between your compression material and your sap line. So a much heavier bow is suggested at times. That way you can keep most of your you can keep most of your compression material, your heartwood, without having to maybe remove rings on top to compensate. You can do that. I have done that before. I don't like it. I don't like digging into the sapwood unless I absolutely have to. It can be done. I've done it before, but it's definitely it's kind of tense because you have to watch and chase that ring very carefully down a long piece of wood, and it can be quite a journey of patience, and it's quite a travel. I've done it a few times and been successful and unsuccessful as a result. Because once you compromise the growth ring pattern in here, you're asking for this thing to go through different tensions. So I like this balance. For me, it's very important, and I seek that out, especially when there's like I said, if it's a light bow, having more of that thinner sap line is easier. If it's a heavy bow, a thicker sap line is easier because you're not having to remove quite as much. So that's the options you get if you don't want to dig into chasing a ring. So anyhow, I'm going to continue on with the bark removal, and we'll do we'll get to the next phase, which will be shaping and layout of the stave to its next level, probably working the limbs.